Considering how relatively young the handheld was when it happened, it just feels wrong that so many 3DS games can now not be downloaded following the eShop closure. Well, downloaded officially, matey. These are just some of the awesome 3DS games that are stuck on the handheld officially and need some kind of official port to the Switch or its successor, but let's not kid ourselves about this first one rising up out of the 3DS ever. An absolute classic and one of the 3DS's best third-person shooters, Kid Icarus Uprising leaves behind the platforming roots of the series to chuck its Angel Hero pit into on-rail sky battles and ground-based scuffles. Though the moment-to-moment gameplay is easy to pick up on once you get used to the controls, Uprising features pretty robust systems and mechanics, some of which would even return in director Masahiro Sakurai's later work on Smash 4 and Ultimate. An in-depth weapon system gives Pit 9 different weapon classes to choose from, and each individual weapon has its own stats and abilities. Meanwhile, the intensity system, which eventually migrated to Smash, is a granular difficulty slider. All of this is tied together by vibrant graphics and art, as well as an incredibly charming script filled with hilarious dialogue. Kid Icarus Uprising is full of personality and brimming with potential, so the lack of a Switch port or sequel has been nothing short of disappointing. Although there's been speculation from fans and teasers from Sakurai himself over the years, he's also gone on record saying that a port would be difficult due to, not having a team. And despite the fandom's pretty hearty appetite for it, Nintendo themselves haven't shown any interest in returning to the franchise. Atlus may have a reputation for constantly re-releasing its RPGs in upgraded form years down the line, but one case where it hasn't happened yet is Shin Megami Tensei 4, which instead got Apocalypse, a pseudo-sequel set in an alternate timeline. SMT4 is kinda a back-to-basics approach. Rather than feature up to 6 endings like Nocturne did, 4 returns to the 3 alignments of Law, Neutral and Chaos. As with other Shin Megami Tensei games, what route your character eventually takes is determined by your dialogue choices. The combat builds on the famous press turn system, where striking weaknesses rewards you with extra turns. 4 features a few twists, such as the new smirk mechanic that can grant extreme boosts to offense and evasion. It also completely removes any form of defensive stats outside of HP, which makes combat much faster paced. Though all round a pretty good game, Shin Megami Tensei 4 is held back by a couple of annoying things. That intro is slow and the alignment stuff just does not entirely land. A re-release could tidy things up and revive the game for a new crowd, especially the players in Europe who only ever got this game on the now defunct eShop. Game Freak's primary duty is to keep the Pokemon hype train rolling with new mainline entries, apparently though with like a £45 budget. Given how much money the franchise makes, look at what I got. Cool, get a load of that. It's a hefty responsibility, but not one that prevents the studio from occasionally indulging in other creative projects without a trubbish in sight. One such project was Harmo Knight, a rhythm platformer and Game Freak's 3DS debut. Its gameplay, which sees protagonist Tempo navigate auto-scrolling stages, is simple, if unforgiving. Because Tempo runs forward automatically, gameplay is limited to simply jumping and striking enemies in time with the music. Proper timing is key to surviving and getting a high ranking at the end of a stage. And hey, if you can't go 5 minutes without thinking about Cubone's sad existence, poor guy, Pokemon fans will find a bit to love here as well, as there are bonus stages featuring music from the series. There is again though, no trubbish. Though Game Freak's efforts here didn't blow anyone's minds, they did still put out a decent rhythm game. Sadly, unless the game receives a port or remaster, the shutdown of the 3DS eShop has rendered this game inaccessible for everyone who hadn't already bought it. Or they don't know how a search engine works. A piece of Game Freak's non-Pokemon history has been lost, and it underscores just how important game preservation is, and why more people should maybe do it themselves. Watch it, never get a port though. Developed with plans for a massive long-lived franchise, Yokai Watch was a huge hit in Japan. Featuring creatures based off of Japanese yokai, the series revolves around exploring the town of Springdale to collect the titular creatures. But half of this series remains stuck on the 3DS. Combat takes a different approach compared to most RPGs. The yokai in your team attack on their own initiative and you're left to play as the support. Instead of issuing direct commands, your role is to heal, buff and choose targets for your yokai. But you can also have them do ultimate attacks, which involves touchscreen minigames. The success of Yokai Watch led to its sequel being highly anticipated in Japan, where it became just as popular. Yokai Watch 2's biggest change is the creation of multiple versions. 2 initial releases, Bony Spirits and Fleshy Souls, that differed in available yokai, and a 3rd, superior release, Psychic Spectres, with new content. Yeah, it's pretty much Pokemon. Yokai Watch 3 likewise received 3 versions in Japan, though the West only got 1 release based on the enhanced 3rd version. This 3rd entry spices up combat and story with new positioning related mechanics and a dual protagonist system respectively. Despite its initial popularity, Yokai Watch has, sadly, fizzled out, with Yokai Watch 3 failing to reach the sales figures of its predecessor. Though the series did get a 4th main entry on the Switch and PS4, it has yet to be localized, and the shutdown of Level 5's North American operations leaves the series' future in the West, including potential re-releases, looking kinda bleak. Quick Q, would you like to see this series ported? Q2 is also the next entry. Q3. Did you like that segue? Ever since Atlus's social sim masterpieces took the world by storm, every new Persona game has become its own brand with spin-offs and merchandise. Among the beefier spin-offs are the Persona Q titles, which fuse together the characters and Persona fusion mechanics of the main series with Etrian Odyssey's dungeon crawling and map-making gameplay. Such a cool mechanic that. While the first-person dungeon exploration and turn-based battles take after Etrian Odyssey, the Q games put their own spin on things. Instead of custom characters and classes, you have a massive pool of party members to pick from, each with specific skill sets. Characters can be equipped with sub-personas to boost their stats and add more skills, but generally, what you see is what you get. Naturally, there's also a much larger emphasis on storytelling here. Well, than in Etrian Odyssey. Of the 2 games, Persona Q2 is the more polished experience, ditching the original's dual campaign approach for a single focused story. It added a plethora of quality of life improvements as well, such as free healing when returning to the hub and better fast travel. Q2 also improved on the writing, with characters who were annoying and one note in Q now being a bit more nuanced and in line with their main series personalities. Atlus has proven that Etrian Odyssey can work on modern systems like the Switch and PC, so hopefully they'll follow up with the Persona Q titles as well. Maybe they're waiting for a lull in Persona and SMTS content after Persona 3 Reload, Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance and Metaphor ReFantasio released last year. They might just need a push. Surprise! Here's another digital classic lost forever to the cruel fate of storefront shutdowns. Released in late 2011, Intelligent Systems' Pushmo was one of the earliest digital-only killer apps for the 3DS. I just listened to that back and I realised my voice cracked, but I'm going to leave it in just because even the manliest men can have voice cracks now and again, okay? Utilising a vibrant, cartoonish art style that still holds up today, Pushmo is a simple yet brilliant puzzle game. The core gameplay revolves around pulling and climbing blocks to rescue trapped children. Think of it, right, as a portable, kid-friendly version of Atlus's Catherine. The mechanics are incredibly simple and limited, but the fundamentals alone manage to carry the game through over 250 puzzles. And if that wasn't enough, you can even make and share your own puzzles via QR codes, which still work despite the online shutdowns. Neat. It also helps that the game made good use of the 3D effect, a gimmick that was sadly underutilized in the rest of the 3DS's library. Pushmo was rightly critically acclaimed at launch, and Intelligent Systems would go on to release 3 more games: Crashmo, Pushmo World for the Wii U, and Stretchmo. Though Pushmo World played it relatively safe, Crashmo and Stretchmo were a good bit more ambitious. Sadly, the series has not seen any activity since Stretchmo's release in 2015, and is an even more egregious case of lost digital games than Harmo Knight, as the entire series was only ever released on the eShop. The entire Pushmo series is no longer available to buy, whether that's on the 3DS or Wii U. It's time it was awakened. Released in early 2013, which somehow wasn't just a couple of years ago, Awakening was developed with the knowledge that it could have been the final ever Fire Emblem game. After experimenting with some truly bizarre ideas, Intelligent Systems settled with making the game a celebration of the series at its very best, incorporating various past mechanics like support conversations, marriage, child units, and the ability to disable the series' infamous permadeath. Awakening also added new mechanics of its own, such as the ability to pair units up on the battlefield and have them attack and defend in tandem. This was also the first entry in the series to feature extensive DLC, with maps and characters released to bolster the game's content. Is that a good or bad thing? You decide. Set 2,000 years after Marth's campaign in Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon, Awakening features a grand tale of its own. What starts as a typical medieval war story eventually unravels into an epic of time travelers from the future looking to save the world before it's destroyed. That old classic chestnut. It's been 2 years since the release of the latest mainline Fire Emblem entry, which was Engage, and a remaster of one of the more popular and iconic games in the series would be a perfect chance to bring in fresh blood in between mainline titles, and to allow those who started with 3 houses a chance to experience what they missed out on. Bundling it with all of the previously released DLC would be a boon for preservation as well, so let's get rolling on that, Nintendo. Cheers. Yeah, it should take you one glance at this art to go all the way in on these games. An armadillo in a hat? Dylan, you son of a bitch. Developed by Vanpool, this action and tower defense mix stars an armadillo, the titular Dylan, the son of a bitch. Though met with lukewarm critical reception, Dylan's games have endeared themselves to the general audience. As a ranger, Dylan is charged with defending villages from invading rock monsters known as groks. Gameplay is split into distinct phases. During the day, Dylan can explore the landscape to find materials to upgrade the village's defences, ranging from doors to towers and weaponry. As night falls, the groks emerge and begin their offensive, and Dylan must fight them off by rolling into them. Yes, it kind of is like a lot less traumatic Darkwood, but after successfully repelling an invasion, the rest of the night is an opportunity for Dylan to chill out, take on side quests, and practice his abilities. As with some of the other entries in this episode, Dylan's ruling western was eventually followed by a few sequels, The Last Ranger and Dead Heat Breakers. The Last Ranger was more like a definitive version of the original game, but Dead Heat Breakers was much more ambitious. This final entry moved the setting to a post-apocalyptic one, adding a new player avatar system known as Animals, and expanded on the nightly invasions by adding race segments where Dylan must chase down groks at high speed to cap off the night. Want to support this cool idea and play the whole trilogy? Too bad. Like Pushmo, the entire Dylan series is now completely inaccessible officially due to the eShop shutdown. The third entry was at least released physically in Japan, Europe and Australia, but North America had no such luck. Oh dear, oh no, guess you may have to bravely go to certain websites and download a few files and move them around. Oh. Time travelling Jimmy here. I've travelled through time and a bit of space to let you know that the earlier version of this video slightly did actually include 2 different games side by side, funnily enough, to close things off, and those were Tomodachi Life and Bravely Default. But Bravely Default has got a remaster, and Tomodachi Life has just had a sequel announced, so out they go. We may actually be necromancers at this point, so yeah, dedicate your hearts to liking this video, and who knows what we might resurrect next. Kind of take some of the credit, maybe. Right, back to it. Listen, I never said they had to be amazing games to make it to this video, okay? Sometimes a stranded game, a strand type game maybe, can kind of just be immensely terminally flawed and still be interesting and worth talking about. I think that applies to Attack on Titan: Humanity in Chains. As a pretty big fan of Attack on Titan, I love Bernardo. It's a bit of a shame how it seems to be hard to properly, definitively translate the IP over to the world of gaming. Zipping around using ODM is pretty fun, but always just gets a tad repetitive across all the official games. That's absolutely the case with Humanity in Chains 2. The game just doesn't evolve beyond a pretty basic mission structure with you either killing titans or saving people. Just do that for a while. Short too, just a few hours long. You'd feel pretty mad if you spent like 30 quid or $40 on downloading this back in the day. Add in some jank and frame rates that are slower than certain people at dodging bullets, and yeah, it's obvious why this reviewed poorly, but I don't know, man. It's still quite charming. It has gigantic N-gauge energy, if that makes sense. It's the Attack on Titan you know and love, right? Just compressed way down with a lovingly crunched soundtrack, and has scenes from the anime too. Even if you don't love the series, Humanity in Chains is still worth acquiring just to see how it all works. It is a fairly ambitious and unambitious game at the same time. There was actually also the visual novel Escape from Certain Death and a direct sequel called Future Coordinates to this that both came to 3DS, but neither of those left Japan. Alright, so there are actually quite a few Etrian Odyssey games stranded on the 3DS. Like 6 of them? Etrian Odyssey 4 all the way up until Etrian Odyssey Nexus, which came out worldwide in 2019, are all currently stranded on Nintendo's double-decker delight, and that's a pity. So yeah, look, it's kind of tricky to jam describing 6 different games into one single segment of a big gaming orange, but basically the Etrian Odyssey series features a bunch of eclectic first-person dungeon crawlers revolving around mapping out dungeons yourself, building up a fully customizable party, and battering kangaroos. The 3DS era does shake things up a bit though, adding in things like overworlds and a more approachable but still tough level of difficulty throughout. These are Atlus games after all. There isn't a single out-and-out dud among all the 3DS Etrian games either, so just start with Etrian Odyssey 4 and fight alongside your best friends Asmuk Bandit and Scoot Biggins on your way to Yggdrasil, then do it like another 5 times. All my homies love Scoot Biggins. However, I'll say there is maybe a decent-ish chance of these games coming back at some point. The Etrian Odyssey Origins collection released in 2023 for Switch and PC and features remasters of the original 3 games. How that does over time will probably determine if we get a new collection or even maybe a new game. I reckon most fans would like to probably see Etrian Mystery Dungeon 2 at least, as that one never got an official release outside of Japan. Realistically though, Atlus will probably release a collection minus the 2 Mystery Dungeon spin-offs, but don't lose hope. I never thought we'd get Saga Frontier 2 again, and then somehow I conjured that back into existence just a little bit. I did that maybe slightly. Well, not even slightly, but anyway, outro time. Outro gang, there's some more Strand type games for you on the 3DS that will probably get ported a week after this comes out, just to spite me specifically. Do you want a free Steam key? All you have to do is comment Scoots Biggins down below. I don't know why that makes me laugh so much. Scoots Biggins. Comment that down below, and you could win a free Steam key. I've been Jimmy for Vultures. Been good having you, and thanks for watching.